Well, Mr. Speaker.
Christopher Bishop.
Well, that was an interesting contribution from Sue Moroney. You wouldn't have thought that actually it was the National Party that took a program to the election to expand paid parental leave and expand the parental tax credit. And actually that is the policy of the National Party, and that is the policy that we will be advancing. But anyway, I want to mention two things in my contribution tonight, and it's a great pleasure to be here actually. This is the first actual bill that I've had the pleasure of speaking on as a new member of this Parliament. I've given a general debate speech, and obviously I've had my maiden speech, but this is the first bill I've spoken on, and it's a shame, I have to say, that I was not privileged enough to be a member of the Law and Order Select Committee that considered this bill. But I have carefully read the information, I've carefully read the bill, and I've carefully read the report back from the Select Committee, and I've considered the submissions. And I think it's pretty clear that there are really three reasons why the bill is not going to be passed tonight, and I think unanimously by the House. There was concern about the definition of in the presence of. It was felt that would be difficult to apply. I think that's fair enough. There was also concern expressed by many that the proposition being put forward by the members' bill was indeed actually already the law. So that in some ways the bill was essentially redundant, that case law already took account of the presence of minors in criminal offending. And there was also some concern, I think, Mr. Speaker, that this would restrict judicial discretion. So I think for those three reasons the bill is rightly going to be not passed tonight. But I don't think anyone would dispute that the member who originally brought the bill forward, who I understand is the long-lamented Brian Donnelly, and then her successor, Asanate Lolo Taylor, I don't think anyone would doubt that they were indeed very well intentioned in bringing this issue to the attention of the House. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to take a more broader look at this bill and the issues, and I want to talk about the achievements of the national-led government in the law and order and crime and punishment fields, because actually the interesting thing about what the government's been up to over the last 6 years is there's been a quiet revolution going on in crime and punishment, and the national government has been cracking down on crime. There's no doubt about that. But the other thing we've been doing as a government is actually putting enormous effort in investment in tackling the causes of crime and tackling reoffending, and that's been firstly led by Judith Collins and then latterly by Anne Tolley, and I'm sure that Pastor Sam Lotoinga will continue with that as the new Corrections Minister. I would describe it as a quiet revolution in that field, and actually I think when people look back on the legacy of this national-led government, I think they will look very favourably on the very large increase in things like drug and alcohol treatment and things like addiction treatment as well. Because it is true, and these are the facts for the benefit of the House, it is true that under the national-led government we have the lowest crime rate in 35 years. It's indisputable.
Point of order.
Speaker, I just wanted to raise the issue that you raised with the previous speaker, Sue Moroney, and saying that her speech was out of scope of this bill. And I just think, looking at this particular speaker, a member of the National Party, that his speech has very little to do with this bill, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like you to consider that.
I take the member's point of order, ask members to stick to the bill under discussion tonight, which is in respect of children's presence at criminal offending, the Sentencing Protection of Children Reform Bill. Obviously, I've previously allowed some leeway, and we learned a lot about the outer reaches of the Rangatiki electorate. I don't believe that the current Speaker is going beyond the scope at the moment, but he must bear in mind the need to stick to the bill.
I think it's fair to say it's been a free-ranging debate, and certainly I think members opposite have taken some liberties as well with the subject matter of this bill. So I do want to talk about the crime rates. We have put 600 more police on the front line, and actually there's been a 155% increase in foot patrols by our police between 2011 and 2013. And look, Mr. Speaker, in my great area of the Hutt Valley, I was very pleased to see crime down 23% between June 2011 and September 2013. Violent crime down 21%, youth crime, Mr Speaker, down 36%, and reoffending down 10%. Actually, the justice sector in the Hutt Valley actually won an award from the Institute, from IPANS, Mr Speaker, for their efforts in working together as a justice system. That's a very impressive achievement and great for the people of the Hutt Valley. Great for the people of the Hutt Valley. Well, actually, he had nothing to do with it, actually. And look, as the new List MP based in the region, I'm looking forward to working with the justice system sector in the Hutt Valley to get those rates down further. So, Mr Speaker, here are some more facts for the benefit of the House. In 2007 and 2008, under the members opposite, when they were in charge, 234 prisoners had access to treatment for addictions. What was the figure in 2013-14? 3,700. 3,700, Mr Speaker. So this is a government that has put a serious amount of effort and energy and also raw hard cash into making sure that our prisoners have access to treatment for addictions, which of course so many of them do. What about qualifications? Because I know the member Jacinda Ardern has a strong interest in making sure that our prisoners come out of prison equipped to go back into the workforce and rehabilitated.
The member will resume his seat. It is pertinent to remind the member that it's been a long time since he's mentioned the protection of children in his speech. So it would have been wise of him to take the stare earlier given. I welcome him back to the point under debate.
Oh, well, Mr Speaker, I think the relevance to children is pretty clear in that we want to make sure that prisoners who leave our prisons, who often go back to looking after children, we want to make sure that they do not reoffend, and this is a government that's put a serious investment into making sure that they leave prison who have the ability to gain qualifications, have the ability to educationally achieve, Mr Speaker. This is also a government, Mr Speaker, that has put a serious amount of effort through the Vulnerable Children's Action Plan, Mr Speaker, into making sure that children who are vulnerable in our society get the support that they need and that we reduce the number of assaults on children. And Mr Speaker, the trend is downwards, and it's very important that we continue on the path that we have gone on through things like putting social workers in schools to deal with the root cause, Mr Speaker, of some of the problems with crime in our society and the subjecting of children to the crime that this bill very rightly, Mr Speaker, I think, aims to deal with. So it's important that we continue with the initiatives like social workers in hospitals, which we introduced in 2009, making sure that social workers are in every district health board around the country, which I know my colleague, the Honourable Jonathan Coleman, as Minister of Health, is very focused on. Making sure that children in our schools have access to social workers, Mr Speaker, and this is a government that has put more effort and energy into that, Mr Speaker. That's extremely important. We've expanded that program to all decile 1 to 3 schools, and I was privileged enough during the election campaign to meet some of those people in Wainuiomata. They are indeed making a difference to the well-being of our young people, Mr Speaker. But look, I think to return to the core elements of this debate, Mr Speaker, I think there is widespread unanimity across the House that for a variety of reasons this bill is not necessary, and I think we can all agree that this is a government that's taking serious action on some of the issues that are highlighted by this bill, and so we won't be voting it forward at second reading.